Hey, what's going on? It's Out of My Mouth Flores here, your host of the Smart Business Show. And today I'm going to be going over the 5 craziest business decisions that I've made. And so, at least that I can remember. I've been in business now for 12 years. I've had to make a lot of crazy decisions, but these are the top 5 that I can remember. So we're going to go ahead and we are going to dive into number 1. So to give you a little bit of or context for this decision, I was in direct sales at the time. So I didn't have the Dream Factory company yet. I didn't have the Business Club Academy. I was in direct sales and we were selling products and we had to build teams to also sell more of that product. So I was doing this presentation. It was in Compton, California, and I remember the presentation. It didn't really go that well. Like nobody bought anything. It was not successful. And I asked the girl who was hosting. I said, "Look, I said we got to be able to, get you to your rank advancement, and we only have literally less than like 48 hours to help you rank advance. So who do you know that was like who is the best person you know that would be great for this opportunity that you think we can be able to generate a lot of momentum with if we brought him onto the team? Like who's the best person you know?" She's like, "For sure, that's Ken." And I was like, "Okay, let's call Ken right now." She's like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "It's 11 o'clock at night." She's like, "What do you mean call Ken? Like he would kill me if I gave you his number. Like you can't call Ken." And I was like, "We need to call Ken because we need to get you to rank advance." So she's like, "Okay." She's like, "I'm gonna trust you with this." So I call Ken at 11 o'clock at night and he answers the phone. He's like, "Hello, who's this?" I said, "Hey, Ken." I said, "You don't know me. I was referred to you by Chanel. She said some great things about you as far as the fact that you've been in other business opportunities, have had a lot of success, and I need to meet with you right now, and it's really urgent." He's like, "Are you crazy? I don't even know you, and it's 11 o'clock at night." He's like, "You're out of your mind." And I was like, "Look," I was like, "I know," I was like, "This is not an everyday kind of call, but this is very urgent. All I need is 15 minutes of your time and a yellow notepad of paper. I want to be able to draw out a business idea that I think can change it all for you." And I was like, "And I need to meet with you right now." He's like, "You're crazy." He's like, "I don't even know you." He's like, "No way." And I'm like, "Look, do you hear the tone in my voice? Do you hear that I'm willing to drive an hour and a half in the rain to meet with you for 15 minutes of your time?" He's like, "An hour and a half away." He's like, "Are you crazy?" He's like, "You wouldn't get here till past midnight." He's like, "You're bananas." And I'm like, "No." I was like, "Ken, you got to trust me on this. I just need 15 minutes of your time and a yellow pad of paper to draw out a business idea." He's like, "And you got to see this, and it has to happen now. I cannot wait another minute. So can I meet you? I'll drive an hour and a half in the rain to meet you right now." And he was like, "Hold on 1 second. Let me talk to my wife." So the line went blank for maybe about a minute or so. He gets back on. He goes, "How soon could you be here?" I was like, "I'm on my way right now." So I literally got in my car, drove from Compton. Those of you know the California landscape, I drove from Compton all the way down to East Highlands, and it was in the rain. I got there at about 12:30, and I didn't end up leaving his house till 4 in the morning. And he came out with a big package, and he not only did that, but he brought in a ton of new customers like really fast, and that helped Chanel hit her rank advancement. And I got my first check that month for $22,000, and I was only in my early 20s. I was like maybe like 22 years old when I got that. So that move was so big because that little rank advancement bumped my check to over 20 grand. It bumped Chanel's check to a few grand, and she was a single mom that needed to make things happen. And that was like a big, crazy move. And looking back, I don't know how I did that or why I did that. Like that was just this crazy move, but that was like a wild experience. So that was in direct sales. Now, second craziest business decision that I made is I left my entire organization, the one I was just telling you about. I left my entire organization of over 1,000 people and making a really great residual income, an amazing lifestyle to follow my passion, which is what I do now. But at the time, I didn't know how to build this kind of business. I knew I wanted to speak. I knew I wanted to coach. I knew I wanted to mentor, but I didn't have any clue on how to do any of it. So I literally left everything that I had, everything I knew, spent 8 years in this career, and I left it behind to build this company here. And that was super scary because I went from a multiple 6-figure lifestyle to literally down to nothing. and like having to start from scratch at my mom's house trying to figure things out. That was a very scary jump, and I didn't know how I was going to make it. And at that time I met Brianna, and she saw me, met me at the pinnacle, and then saw me at the low, like, okay, what are you doing with your life? Because charging $300 an hour for your coaching is not going to make ends meet. And that's exactly what I was charging. I didn't have any clue how to build my business. So that was a really tough time in my life, and that was a big decision. And the reason I had to leave that company to start this is because their policies wouldn't allow me to have another business, because my sites that I was building weren't approved by the company. I'd hit such a high rank that they needed to control the sites that I was making, and they didn't have that control. I didn't want them to have that control, so I had to decide to, cut the ties and start over from scratch, and that was a very hard decision. That was number 2. Number 3, at this time, I invested in a big live event. So I took a big part of my savings. I mean, I invested like over $20-something thousand in this live event. I didn't know if it was going to work or if it was going to be profitable. And that was like a big investment for me at the time. I was young. I was in my early 20s. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is going to work. And literally, I made almost like no sales and like completely lost all that money. It was like really bad. And I was just like completely like, what am I going to do now? I just left this like, organization I've been building for years, and like I'm trying this thing, I'm losing money, investing into it, it's not working, like it's crazy. Which leads me into number 4, which is the 4th craziest decision. I took the rest of our savings that I had, the very little bit that we had left, and I dumped it into my coaches. Now, the first coach I hired was horrible. I lost my $5,000. It was the worst coach I could have ever had. He taught us strategies that actually got me banned on Facebook back then. It was like just really bad. And then I had just a little bit left, and I hired one more coach. And this is really it. I was going to tap out and have to go figure something else out. Maybe go back to school and get my degree, or go back into another business or something. I was at my last end, and I remember having a conversation with Brianna. She was still my girlfriend at the time. And I'm like, babe, like, this is all I got. Like, we just got to do it because I don't know what else to do. So we put in our last, few $1,000s into a coach, and it turns out that what he taught me allowed us to go from scratch to building a 6-figure business in 6 months. And that changed the game. That was the financial breakthrough that we had, and that was like amazing coaching. He's a guy out of Australia, and changed my life, changed my business, changed everything. So that was like amazing. That was like, I'm still grateful for this day. If I didn't have that moment, I don't know if I would still be doing what I'm doing now. Then as we began to grow as a company, I remember, this is the number 5, I remember meeting our first person that was like, I want a $50,000 a year salary. And we had no teammates at the time that we were really paying. It was just interns. And I was like turning to my wife. I had gotten married, and I was like, okay, like, like, how am I going to pay for this person? We really need her to come onto our team, but like, can we really do this? And so we took the leap, and we got our first like official like teammate, and we, gave her that salary. And so that was like, such a stretch, because I just had never done that. I never invested in a person like that before. And so from that, fast forward to today, we now have a team of 14 full-time staff and over 40 sales reps. So if you can imagine the stretches of seeing tens of thousands of dollars go out of your account every single month, sometimes expenses near 6 figures, just seeing that money leave your account, it's crazy when you grew up not having that kind of funding. So just being able to invest in team, it's always a crazy decision because you never know. Typically when you invest, if you haven't got to that point, you have to float salaries, meaning you have to pay for their salary for anywhere from 3 to 6 months before you can see a return on investment. So you're just floating all that revenue. And so those are some crazy things that I've had to go through in business, decisions I had to make. And so, there's been some crazy, scary moments too, where we were possibly going to lose it all. I remember even a month where we literally had we were generating tens of thousands of dollars, and then all of a sudden in 1 month we just got completely stuck, and we had hardly any sales come in, and I still had all the overhead of the business. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I remember talking to my wife, like, what are we gonna do? As you can see, I go to my wife for everything. But these are just some real moments. These are some real moments that I've had to go through as an entrepreneur. I've struggled, made it, left it all, started over, not knowing what I was doing, and then like invested everything I had, lost those investments, then invested again, and then lost that investment, then invested again, finally made something great, and then having to invest again to get to the next level. It's just a constant reinvention of myself. And so I'm sure you have crazy stories that you've gone through on your journey as an entrepreneur. So if so, make sure to submit them. I would love to hear your crazy business decisions that you've made. I could feature you on the next show. And then also too, make sure to subscribe to this channel and leave your comments, and also leave us a great rating, 7-star rating. It was only 5 stars, but leave us 7. And would love to be able to hear your crazy business decisions that you've had to make over the years, and maybe we can feature your story on our next show. So thank you so much for listening to the Smart Business Show and also the podcast for those of you who are listening through audio. And I appreciate you guys, love you guys. If you want to follow me on IG, connect with me, Flores. I would love to hear your story. See you in the next episode.